concerned about the victims, we love the victims, we want to help the victims, but they don't. Because when push comes to shove and the rubber hits the road, you end up with devils like these bankruptcies. And the victims go in there and they try everything they can to disqualify them and throw them out of court. So they get no satisfaction. And these are people whose lives essentially have been basically ruined by the church. Part of the ruination was when they were violated by the perpetrator. But that's only part of it. Now, under ordinary circumstances, at church, you would expect, oh, I'll go to the pastor, I'll go to the bishop, he'll sit me down, he'll put his arms around me, he'll say, I'm so sorry, what can we do for you? We'll help your family, we'll do whatever we can. It doesn't happen that way. The ones that do get to talk to the bishop, if they get to talk to the bishop, it's business. It's business. I've asked every victim I've ever talked to, and this is going on a 40-year span, everyone I've ever talked to, when, after you disclosed to the church that you've been sexually abused, when did the bishop show up at your house? And they would look at me like I'm nuts. I have not ever gotten an affirmative response. Never. And the other thing I've asked them, oftentimes, is, did anyone from the church ever go and apologize to you? Have you ever heard the apologies that come out of these guys? We're sorry for your pain. We're sorry that this happened. It's very unfortunate. We're praying for you. Nobody says, I'm sorry for what we did to you. And I started doing that a number of years ago when I was still a cleric. And I meet the victims and kind of, first off, they knew I was a priest, so that was a barrier right away. But once they finally began to trust me a little bit and figured this guy really is on our side, I would get him along. I felt that I had a bit of trust there. And I would say, look, I'm still a cleric. Part of the cabal that did this to you. And I want you to know that I'm deeply ashamed and I'm deeply sorry for what we did to you and to your family. Everyone I've ever said that to, and I can't count the numbers, has said to me, you're the first one that's ever said something like that. You know, they get this canned stuff. I'm sorry for the pain you've experienced. I'm sorry. They're not sorry for anything. They're sorry that they're on the spot and have to do this. That's what they're sorry about. So what it's really all about is, I think, an attempt to still stay on top and protect the interests of the institution, which is the image, and the patrimony, which is the money, the image, and the power and the clout, because it is dribbling away quickly. Nobody, I think, Dave and I have been in this game for a lot of years. Did you ever expect, Dave, when we got started 30 years ago, were we beat on?
Oh, yeah, I saw it all coming.
I mean, worldwide. I've been involved in several government-sponsored and run investigations, like in Australia, places like that, where they really go into this stuff deeply, and they take it seriously. And what they come up with is mind-boggling. So that this whole issue that we're dealing with is a huge, black undercarriage of the institutional church. It's always been there, it's always going to be there. And the only way that it can be controlled is by people like you and me who fight back and no longer take, say, take your playbook, fold it 4 ways and shove it where the sun doesn't shine. So at the bottom of it, there's some hard truths, I think, some very hard truths to listen to. We've learned a lot in 40 years. The church has learned a lot. They've learned a lot about creating bureaucratic processes, but they still have not grasped the fundamental reality of what this is all about. What is the difference between 1983 and 2023 as far as the fundamental attitude? Nothing. Because the same adversarial concept, the same adversarial attitude is what's dominating what we're going through. Am I cynical? Oh yeah. And I got good reason to be. It's not over. And it's never going to be over until the ecclesiastical system that created it and enables it and has radically in front of it, until it radically in fundamentally changes. That is, but I mean it, radical and fundamental. The Catholic Church is a kingdom. It's run by potentates, the Pope on top, and a lot of bishops or dukes. Until that whole thing changes, and there's a respect for, first off, for children and young adults, and then for adults that don't happen to be priests or nuns or monks, when there's a respect for all of us, things might start to turn. And that's got to be universal. And it can't be pat you on the head, say a prayer, I'll say a prayer for you, blah, 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 and go away and get out of it. Don't say anything, just don't be a nuisance. So the essential causes of this plague that has infested the people of God, which is the official name of the Catholic Church, and the people of God are not the guys in the fancy dresses that live in chancery offices or big buildings. The people of God are us. The people of God are the guys that I meet in my AA meetings every Sunday morning. The people of God are the guys that are walking around the streets and maybe go to church, once a year if they go at all. They're the people of God. God doesn't care if you go to church or not. He's got other things to worry about. There are systemic causes at the base of this whole thing. And all of this business about bankruptcy, all the other issues we're dealing with are in the middle. They're beneath the surface, but they're not at the base. The basic issues, the systemic causes, are deeply embedded in the very concept of the church. One, the whole concept of what a priest is. That you teach the kids he walks on water, he's God's representative. That's not true. The concept that you can't be saved, whatever that means, unless you do it through the institutional church. Well, what about the 48 billion people that existed before Jesus Christ came? What happened to them? So you got those ideas, and then the concept that the bishops, who they protect at all costs, are the actual pillars of the church, the representative of Jesus Christ and the apostles, and we need them to be good people, to be favored in the sight of God. That's a myth. So those are just some of what we call the systemic causes. Now let me show you some pictures here.